Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details. Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
I'm Victoria Cash. Thanks for calling the Lucky Land Hotline. If you feel like you do the same thing every day, press 1. If you're ready to have some serious fun for the chance to redeem some serious prizes, press 2. We heard you loud and clear. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com right now and play over 100 social casino-style games for free. Get lucky today at LuckyLandSlots.com.
Available to players in the U.S., excluding Washington and Michigan. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello and welcome to Islanders Anxiety from Lighthouse Hockey and the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Dan Saracini. Joining me on this Monday evening by Zencaster is my friend Michael Leboff. And Mike, I guess the thing to talk about for us tonight is how there's really not much to talk about, which is kind of a nice change of pace for the Islanders and what they've sort of put us through this season. A lot of people are kind of doing their recaps, and everybody's consensus has been that this was kind of an insane, exhausting season for many, many reasons. But so far in the offseason, since their clean out day, the big news has been the signing of goaltender Marcus Hogberg to a 2-year contract. And Matt Martin had a lovely birthday dinner with his friends, and his wife, Sydney, posted a beautiful picture on Instagram. That's it. That's your Islanders news for the offseason so far. But again, it's somewhat been somewhat relaxing. We'll talk about the playoffs continuing in the second half, but how have you been using this time away from the Islanders so far in these last couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, I'm having a tough time because of what's going on in the playoffs. And we'll talk about the Rangers and Hurricanes later, but that's been kind of just weighing on me more than anything with the Islanders. It is funny how off seasons we think about the dead time being mid-July to beginning like the Labor Day weekend, basically. But the week after you're eliminated is really, that's the decompression. Nothing really happens. The players go away. Sure, the front office staff goes away, and you become this weird, like a prisoner to circumstance of the rest of the league. The playoffs are still going on. Right. You're left behind, and nobody can really do anything. Right. And there's also, I mean, we're gonna do an episode tomorrow. Right? Tomorrow's Tuesday.
Yes,
tomorrow on uh, a special. I hope I'm not spoiling anything.
No.
It's not a surprise episode, I hope.
No.
Of Master Leaf Theater, because it's, the episode we did, the hour we did on the Maple Leafs last week wasn't good enough because so much more has come out, and
Right.
there's been one writer who was stalking the pace, I think, for all season, and has now just bolted to the front of the pack for Master Leaf Theater Writer of the Year. He might be the 2-time defending champion too. I'd have to go back into our records, but because that is also taking up so much oxygen in the room, it's hard to even think about the Islanders, to the point where when that picture popped up, it was kind of I was like, oh, maybe that's the end of the end of season dinner or something. I was like, oh, it's Matt Martin's birthday dinner, and it took me a couple glances to figure out that Josh Bailey was in the picture. and when I finally did, I was like, oh yeah, there's Bailey. And I was like, oh wait, he didn't play this year.
Right.
And so it's just the Islanders are so far from your mind, and it does feel good in a way. It will feel a lot better, hopefully, if that someone else wins the Stanley Cup. But it does feel good to be this far away from them. I'll miss them. I'll miss Islanders hockey very soon, right after this season ends, basically, and I'll be counting the days to October. But right now, it feels really nice to know that there is a whole baseball season between now and the Islanders.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of a double-edged sword. Like, you've got time away from the team that has driven you crazy, but you also have to watch these other teams that you hate as much as you love the Islanders do their thing. Fortunately for us, there's only really one left, although the Hurricanes could qualify for some, I suppose. But nobody really talks about that sort of week after where nothing can happen. Like, and we've heard a lot that, the commissioner doesn't really like teams announcing stuff really during it might be just the Stanley Cup final, but the Islanders they have not fired their coach. They're not looking for a new coach. That's for sure. They're certainly not looking for a new general manager. They've made that very clear. We haven't heard any firings yet of any assistant coaches, but then again, knowing Lou Lamoriello, he won't announce anything. And there'll just be two new guys behind the bench alongside Patrick Waugh in September. And maybe they might even be two new bald guys. We have no idea. And wait, aren't those the two bald guys from last year? No, those are two new bald guys. We have no idea. So, the Islanders more than a lot of other teams have gone sort of radio silent. And all we have left is a goaltender signing out of Sweden. Marcus Hogberg played with the Senators, I think, for a little while. Yeah, he was with the Bingham Belleville Senators for a little while, but he's mostly probably going to play in the AHL. And we've had some vacation pictures. I believe Ryan Pulock and his wife may have been in Italy, I think. I'm not sure. But the picture of them all enjoying an Italian food feast for Matt Martin's birthday was lovely. Let me say the thing. Here's the thing about Matt Martin. You can say what you want about the man, but you cannot question his commitment to Italian food. This is the man who years ago said his favorite, guilty pleasure was vodka sauce. Here he is sitting down for a lovely Italian restaurant. Clearly they've been to this restaurant before. He loves it. It's his birthday. That's what we all do on our birthday. So this dude really loves Italian food. And that's what, again, makes Matt Martin such a relatable Islander for so many of us. It's a great picture. Everybody looking very sharp, very handsome. Just clockwise from left, we got Adam Pelech, Ryan Pulock, Bo Horvat, Matt Barzal, Josh Bailey. Again, seeing Josh Bailey a year out from him playing with the Islanders is kind of funny because normally he's like, oh yeah, there's Bailey. And you're like, wait, hold on a second. There's Bailey and Anders Lee and Noah Dobson. And then sitting in front is, of course, Martin's kind of work partner there, Cal Clutterbuck, who, we've come to kind of expect Cal to have a bit of an antagonistic relationship with the MSG cameras, Shannon Hogan, the intermission interviews. Apparently Cal just hates cameras because whoever took this picture, and I'm assuming it was Mrs. Esiason, Martin, Cal's got a look on his face like, please don't take a picture of me. And it's like, Cal, it's your friend's birthday party. Just please smile. So I don't know what was up his ass, but it's Cal Clutterbuck, so it's probably something. But no, it's a great picture and looks like a fun time. But again, this constitutes Islanders off-season news. Everybody gathered for Matt Martin's birthday. Yeah. So I guess, in a way that means you're doing something right. But on the other hand, it means that it is a barren desert. This is a tumbleweed in the desert of Islanders off season, and we have to sit here and watch the Rangers and Hurricanes kind of do their thing. And it hasn't been fun, particularly from the Rangers' point of view. But again, we'll get to that. But Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what else? What else has been here? I don't know. There's has even like fan discussion has been very
Yeah, it's all
minimal. Yeah,
forced, right? It feels very
right.
forced.
Yes,
Like people, and I get that the content machine has to keep rolling,
right.
right? But it feels very, very, very forced right now, and um, that's that's frustrating. Like there's no reason to be discussing these trade targets or free agent
Right.
targets or
Yeah.
whatever when we're gonna have a long time to do it in a couple weeks. So that's part of the reason I don't want to dip my toe. The other one is like you said, like the Rangers aren't out yet, so
Yeah.
I'm not ready to look forward to next year.
Mm.
Yeah. In that regard, I guess like a couple things. Well, first of all, I have a theory about that picture too. Is that Josh Bailey hasn't announced his retirement yet.
That's right.
So I feel like he's waiting for his buddies.
Yeah.
Or one of his buddies, maybe Matt Martin.
Mm.
Although Matt Martin said he's planning on playing next year.
Right.
I feel like there's going to be something where Bailey, Martin, and Clutterbuck kind of just retire together.
Mm.
But
I don't
that's
know.
just my theory, and I just love that he's gone full Bick, and you look, it's leave it to this podcast. I mean, there is absolutely nothing going on, so I understand why, but it's great that we're still talking about Josh Bailey
Right.
a year removed from him
Yeah.
playing the
Right.
game. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, what are you talking about? The fact that we can talk about the Oliver Wahlstrom not
Mm.
coming back, and seems like the writing's on the wall there. Like
Right.
there's very little else to get into. So
Yeah. Yeah.
or I
Yeah.
mean, of course, Marcus Hogberg. I was joking with you. I was expecting to look up his stat line being like uh you know
Yeah.
4-12-1 in the NHL, and then 3 of the wins against the Islanders, and in those 3 games being
Yeah.
having a 899 or something.
Yeah.
I do remember him a little bit. Like I
Yeah.
remember him just being, because the Senators were just going through goalies like crazy at
Mm.
that time, and I was
As
like, who the
always.
hell is Hogberg? But
Yeah. He actually got in 24 games with the Sens one year back in 1920. And yeah, I did the same exact thing. I immediately went to Hockey Reference and immediately looked up his splits and was like, okay, how many wins does he have against the Islanders? Actually, he hasn't played them at all, which is kind of a rare feat, I would think, for a minor league goalie from another bad team. But yeah, no, there's all we can do is kind of sit around and watch other teams implode and fire their coaches and interview other coaches. Apparently, it's like a whole network of coaches out there now that everybody has interviewed, whether it's Craig Berube, Sheldon Keefe, Todd McClellan, a few other guys here. But the Islanders are not one of those teams. Like the Islanders have a coach. And I mean, I suppose there's, we could talk about that a little bit, but even that's up in the air. We did talk a little bit last time. Like we know what the players are doing in their offseason. This is kind of old hat for them. We know what Lou Lamoriello is doing for his offseason. He's probably spending it at the office, which, let's be honest, is probably where he lives. But, with Patrick Waugh, it is a good question. What is he doing? Like, I'm assuming it involves a lot of moving his family from Quebec to Long Island, where, he's permanently going to live now. I am assuming that they probably lived up there for most of the time that he was coaching here. But the dude's got to find a house. He's got to probably, I don't think his kids are school age, but, he's got to settle in the place that he's going to be calling home for a while. And I don't know, that to me is more interesting than like, what RFAs are going to get qualified or, what free agents are the Islanders going to look at, because we'll know when we know, and you won't know before you know. And that's pretty much it. And I mean, again, this is a roster that for all intents and purposes is mostly still split, or is mostly still stuck together until something big happens. And again, in that case, we will know after it happens. If they trade a JG Pageau or Brock Nelson, we will react to it. But there's no point in kind of like getting all bent out of shape about whether or not they should trade Brock Nelson or trade Pageau or, whatever, buy out Lee or, not qualify Wahlstrom, because all of these things are out of our control. They will happen or they won't happen. But it does seem like Wahlstrom in particular is probably one name that won't be on this list. And, there was a little bit of talk about Ruslan Ishakov maybe considering the KHL, but I don't know. That seems to have disappeared. He played his one game. So I don't know what's going to happen there. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. But, the Islanders are not a team that puts out a lot of a lot of sort of ancillary product. Oh, Brock Nelson is at the World Championships, which is kind of a fun thing. He had an assist. He's wearing a letter for Team USA. They lost to Slovakia, I think, in a preliminary game. So I wish I could watch this, but it's on NHL Network, and I don't have that, and I never have, and I'm just going to have to read about what happens after it happens. So that's about it. Yeah, I don't know. That's really it. I wish there was something else to discuss. I mean, we could talk about Scott Mayfield and his offseason surgery, and he's apparently going to be ready for training camp. But again, it's kind of, we can't change the past, and we said whatever we said, and now it's done. So we have to kind of live with that. But yeah, that's about it. I don't know what else is there to.
Absolutely nothing. So we can
we'll move on. Okay.
Yeah, just move on.
Yeah. I do have an announcement right now, though, that I was going to make in the break for the episode, but we'll do that now. This will probably end up being a shorter episode, obviously. So I guess I'll get this out of the way now. So we are alternating episodes of Anxiety and Weird Islanders. Like I said last time, last week was both. This week is Anxiety. Next week, there will be no Anxiety. There will just be Weird Islanders. I put out a great episode of Weird Islanders on Friday with my friend Patrick Bexel talking about Jorgen Janssen, a player who has fascinated me ever since I watched him play his one NHL season for the Islanders back in 99-2000. This man is a superstar in his and Patrick's native Sweden, and a absolute curiosity here in these shores. Unfortunately, Mike was sick that day, but we put together a great episode, and I really highly recommend listening to it because this guy is one of the most fascinating Islanders of all time. And the trade that sent him away from the Islanders at the deadline for another Swedish superstar kind of blew Patrick's mind a little bit, which I thought was actually kind of a funny moment. But that was episode 49 of Weird Islanders. So that means that the next one in a couple of weeks is episode 50. So we wanted to do something different. And so it came to us via our mailbag episode on in February over at the Patreon. Our friend Will Forthman of Isles Meetups NYC had a great idea. He's like, when are we going to choose the weirdest Islander of the year? And we were like, that's a great idea. So we are going to do that. Episode 50 will be the first ever crowning of the weirdest Islander of the year. And to crown a weirdest Islander of the year, we need your help. So on Tuesday, the day you're listening to this, a poll will go up at our Patreon page, patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. You do not need to be a member. You do not need to pay us any money. You don't need to follow us or anything. No obligation, no money down, no nothing. All you got to do is go to patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. There will be a poll at the top. And all of the players who played less than 50 games for the Islanders this year are eligible. But somebody will be chosen as the weirdest Islander of the year. It's frankly a two-man race. We'll get to that in a second. But the criteria is very simple. It is not about stats. It's not about moments. It's not about numbers. It is about incredulity, meaning whose name makes you think, I cannot believe that guy played for the Islanders this year. That's it. That's the only criteria. I can't believe this guy was an Islander. Again, it's probably a two-man race. When you see the list of guys, you will know who those two guys are. There's a third guy in there, maybe get a couple of votes there, but we will tally the votes. The voting will be open until Saturday at midnight. Also, all day Saturday, it'll be open, and then it'll close. Polls will close, and then Sunday we'll record an episode. We'll have a special guest on to talk about and crown a weirdest Islander of the year. So, Mike, I mean, how excited are you to finally have a weirdest Islander of the year, a first ever of these? Maybe we'll make it an annual thing, but for episode 50, it seemed like a really cool idea to do.
It has to. I think it has to be an annual thing, right? It's got to be, and it's going to be up there with the Bob Nystrom Trophy.
Yes.
It's kind of the tongue-in-cheek version of the Bob Nystrom.
Right.
Both awards, of course, come from places of love. As like you said, we're on episode 50 of Weird Islanders coming up, and I would say 45 of these players, and there's more than we've had some multiplayer episodes. Right. So I would say a good 90% of the players that we've talked about are players we love and hold close to our hearts. And I think that the winner, the odds-on favorite, will be in that conversation for sure. And if you think about, I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, but I'll spoil it anyways with this hint that he also had the odds stacked against him because of some previous transgressions.
Yeah.
against the Islanders. So yeah, really excited for this, and I'm trying to think of like what the trophy would look like or who you would name it as. I used to like joke around on Twitter every year with my Jim Vandermeer. I can't believe that guy is still in the NHL award. And I used to joke around about it and with a couple people online. Like if you were to name this award for someone, it's kind of hard, I think.
Yeah.
Because they're all like in the same. Like, I don't think there is a weirdest Islander. That's part of the
Right.
The magic of the show, right? Like they're all different. It's very different.
Yeah.
It's like having like your family pets. Like you as you grow older, like you have different family pets, and there's not one that they all mean something. They all mean the same to you, but they all mean the same. They all mean something different. And fill a part of your life with different ways. So I'm trying to think of what the trophy would look like, what it would be named after. Maybe it would just be the big duck.
Yeah.
But
well, maybe maybe that's something we'll come up with during the episode as we talk it out.
Yeah.
Because like you said, there's no weirdest Islander that we could come up with. I mean, everybody that we've talked about has been weird in their own way. I definitely don't want to call it like the Brian Rolston Trophy because, like you said, 90% of these episodes were about guys that we care about and we enjoyed watching play for a short amount of time for the Islanders. Brian Rolston is one of those exceptions where we couldn't. The fact that he was the first episode and it was me, you, and our friend Carrie Haber just going off on this guy who played 3/4 of a season for the Islanders has turned out to be a bit of an anomaly. Like everybody else, even the ones, even like a Thomas Vanek who we talked about, as much as that breakup was weird, we didn't really hold a ton of ill will towards the guy, even there, he didn't want to play in Brooklyn, didn't want to sign, blah, blah, blah. We still ended up being like, that was still pretty cool. So I don't want to name the trophy after a guy we don't like, but maybe we'll think it over and we'll see. Like I said, we're going to have a guest on and maybe we'll figure it out and we'll come up with a good answer. But get yourself over to patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. Again, no obligation, no money down, no nothing. All you got to do, pick the player who you cannot believe was an Islander this year, and that person will be named our weirdest Islander on Sunday, and then that episode will come out next Friday. The other announcement, as Mike alluded to a few moments ago, is that we are going to be doing a standalone Master Leaf Theater episode on Tuesday. That's going to come out on Wednesday. We really went off on the Leafs for quite a while in the last episode. And, we kept 65% of our audience, which I thought was actually quite a bit. I didn't think it would be that much. But, I didn't want to, kind of drive too many people away, but we will make a standalone episode. If you want to listen to it, please, by all means do. If you don't, if you're not into, us going off on media for another team that we don't care about, that's absolutely fine. I totally get it. But as he said, there has been some changes for the Leafs and a few people have really taken the ball and run with it. And as we have, we have designated a Jane Austen of Master Leaf Theater and a Beowulf of Master Leaf Theater. Well, I have two more literal connections coming up for that one too. So you're not going to want to miss it. That's going to come out on Wednesday. So don't miss that Master Leaf Theater special coming up. And I know you're excited. We were reading new stuff today. This was going to be about one article, but now it's two because one came out today that was too good.
It's really a shame that it just can't be a full-time job, because if I had the ability to do it, I could, if I was had a windfall,
right,
I would spend so much of my time cutting up these podcasts that I've been listening to, the articles, the video clips, everything to make it something special because there's so much of it.
Yeah,
like you would, I like you said, I totally get why a lot of people think it's so dumb, and it is. It is so dumb and it's so pointless and it's petty and immature and all that kind of stuff. But when you're this far into the weeds, which we unfortunately are, and 65% of our audience is as well, you start to see some things that they just I was on talking to our buddy Art today, and I said that I was telling him I was listening to the latest episode of James Myrtle's podcast with Jonas Siegel. I did a whole extra lap around Stop and Shop because I finished my shopping and I'm listening to this podcast. It was so engrossing that I just kept lapping around Stop and Shop with my cart. Like if someone was probably watching the security camera, just being like, this guy is just going around the store's perimeter over and over and over again. I probably did 8 or 9 laps, and they probably had somebody like tracking me, being like, was he rob the place? Like, what's he doing? And then I just walked out, and if they had stopped me and asked me, what were you doing? I was like, well, I was listening to 2 guys talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs and how they never, ever, ever said that they were right about not running it back. They never said that they should run it back. And then I would get arrested on the spot, different crime, but I would still get arrested. But yeah, it's just part of our the fabric of the show now, and hopefully it knocks the bits that we've found knock your socks off, because some of it has knocked mine off. It's you'd think that the bar was so high to be surprised with what you're reading and hearing from these guys. With ease, they surpass it. With ease.
It's got to be exhausting for these guys. Well, I don't want to get too much into it, but because it's not just, it started out just the articles, which we then add the music to. But you're right. Like when you start taking in the podcasts too, like if I start taking in YouTube channels, that's kind of like, I can't take that. I can't do that anymore. I can't cross that bridge, the YouTube video bridge. I can't do it. But it becomes like almost kind of an entity unto itself, like the kind of, the Leafs strife, postseason stuff, which is why I hope their drought continues forever, because the content is too good. But again, if you're not into it, that's totally fine. We get it. But there will be a standalone Master Leaf Theater coming out on Wednesday, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed, because the content we have is great. And again, it's a little, we had somebody, one of our friends, number 35 jersey over at the Patreon, said that these are like PBS putting out a hockey podcast. So if you think of it that way, it's even better, and it makes us feel a lot better, and it makes the whole operation feel a lot more highbrow. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for the poll for Weirdest Islander, and that's pretty much it. But we are going to take a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to go off on 2 teams that are a lot closer to home, the Rangers and Hurricanes, who right now are battling as we speak in an elimination game for Carolina. And to say that we're at the end of our rope with both of these teams would be an understatement as well. So meet us on the other side. All right, thanks. And now a word from our sponsors. First is VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, mugs, and more, featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey also carries our Al Arbor and the Island merch, and our portion of the sales always go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. Use the code ANXIETY20 to save 20% off an order of 2 items. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a 2022 Top 100 Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly.
I'm Victoria Cash. Thanks for calling the Lucky Land Hotline. If you feel like you do the same thing every day, press 1. If you're ready to have some serious fun for the chance to redeem some serious prizes, press 2. We heard you loud and clear. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com right now and play over 100 social casino-style games for free. Get lucky today at LuckyLandSlots.com.
Available to players in the U.S., excluding Washington and Michigan. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm Victoria Cash. Thanks for calling the Lucky Land Hotline. If you feel like you do the same thing every day, press 1. If you're ready to have some serious fun for the chance to redeem some serious prizes, press 2. We heard you loud and clear. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com right now and play over 100 social casino-style games for free. Get lucky today at LuckyLandSlots.com.
Available to players in the U.S., excluding Washington and Michigan. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
It's time for today's Lucky Land horoscope with Victoria Cash.
Life's gotten mundane, so shake up the daily routine and be adventurous with a trip to Lucky Land. You know what they say. Your chance to win starts with a spin. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com to play over 100 social casino-style games for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Get lucky today at LuckyLandSlots.com.
Available to players in the U.S., excluding Washington and Michigan. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
This is definitely on pace to be our shortest episode ever.
We deserve it after the season when
I agree.
Every episode we had to unpack a million different things every episode because how
I agree.
stupid this team was.
I agree. So let's just get into, as we were saying, the Rangers and Hurricanes. It has been tough watching these playoffs. I get that there's no winners here for us as Islanders fans. Why don't we start with the Rangers, because they are on the cusp of probably the easiest ride to the Eastern Conference Finals in recorded history of the NHL's Eastern Conference, and are just incredibly irritating and have just taken on a life of their own. It doesn't hurt that the Knicks are also kind of on a little bit of a playoff run themselves, although they've lost 2 straight and seem to be in a lot of injury trouble right now. But this Rangers team is just, I don't know. They're in so many ways, there's so much the opposite of the Islanders, where just like stuff just happens for them in a way that has never happened for the Islanders ever, perhaps. And I don't know what to make of it. I wouldn't know what to do with myself if my team was, being kind of just, they play in such a way that, it's not unusual for them to get kind of outplayed, and then they just walk away with a 3-1 win or 3-0 win or whatever. And it's just like, really? How does this happen? But I guess, you build a team that's pretty good. And I don't know. I guess I'm not too mad at them for building the team the way that they have, but man, it just sucks. Like, it just really sucks. And especially to hear like people like, oh, what a fun team this is. I don't know. How are you holding up? I know you take this.
Not good.
Yeah. I just ignore it, but you can't.
Yeah. They you're right. It's a completely different experience. It's so pleasant. Right? Like for them, I feel that watching playoff games is pleasant and it's a fun experience, and there's none of that anxiety. And I do think a lot of that has to do with the way that the two fan bases are attached to their teams and I always will caveat this with, we all know diehard good Ranger fans. We all do, but their fan base is so much bigger, and it collects so much more dust as it kind of rolls, as the season rolls along. And people that you didn't know cared get into the playoff run, and Manhattan kind of becomes a different animal, or people who work in Manhattan kind of appreciate it and adopt the Rangers as like almost a pet team, or folks who are expats from elsewhere adopt the Rangers because they live there. So it's just different, right? It's just a different experience. We've gotten to know a bunch of people from overseas or from different parts of the country or in Canada who had the option of picking 30 or 32 teams in the NHL, and unfortunately ended up with the Islanders. Right? Like I was talking to Gavin Taylor, who's listens to the show, and he's from the UK, and his experience was that he had just moved to the US, I think, and I apologize if I get the year wrong here, Gavin, but I think in the 2002 season or 2006 season, he went to a game on Boxing Day at the Coliseum, and it reminded him the atmosphere, the fans, the tribalism reminded him of his beloved Leeds United, and kind of brings out the same kind of emotions. And I think that's what you're looking for if you're an Islander fan, is that, right? Like, you're looking for, let's get the fangs out, let's bay for blood, we're going into the Coliseum. Whereas the Rangers are, if you're it's a completely different experience. When you're watching the Rangers, you're going there to have a night out. You're gonna go, okay, let's go. We'll hit this place before the game. We'll get to the game a little late. We'll have a
Right.
couple of drinks at the game. Maybe we'll see.
Liam Neeson.
Yeah,
Like,
Liam
oh yeah,
Neeson.
Liam Neeson is
Yeah,
there.
there's Liam Neeson. There's Molly Shannon. That they're hosting SNL.
Hmm.
Couple like Yankees or Giants or whoever's there, whoever's the toast of the town. That's what it is, right? It's like you go for that. It's a very different. It's the Gilded Age, right? It's the
Right.
Gilded Age of the NHL. The Islanders are down in it's like the Astors, and then going to the Garden, and then the Islanders are just the the people in the Bowery or whatever going going to the game on the weekend after working in the factory. It feels a little like that, but and the romantic way that it's supposed to go, if you look at sports as romance, which they're not, is that we're supposed to be viewed as this little upstart underdog team scrapping for everything, almost moved a couple times, asbestos everywhere, concrete in the toilets, all sorts of shit, right? Like we've been through it all. We went into the city that the Rangers play in, live in, and we got spit out. So that team's supposed to be viewed as the upstart underdog, cute little hobby team, but for some reason the sport and the culture around it and the media around it has completely twisted it to the opposite, where the Rangers, like you said, get viewed as a very different entity, a team that, although it's caught every break, you have to go 20, 30 rungs on the ladder to get to some of these breaks because they're crazy. I mean, we did an episode on Peter Regan of Weird Islanders, and if you haven't listened to it, I really, really advise you to not listen to it right now because it'll just make you mad. But if the Rangers do get eliminated at some point, then you can listen to it because the gist is that Peter Regan ends up turning into something unbelievably good for the Rangers somehow. But those breaks always seem to fall into their lap, and nobody ever seems to say, like they've sure got the rub of the luck here. They've got all the money, they've got the Garden, they've got the prestige, they've got everybody who's ever played for them is calling the game on ESPN, and nobody ever seems to get to call them out for it. Whereas for the Islanders, it's every little thing that doesn't or does happen. With us, it's just an affront, a war crime. Send the owner and the general manager and Anders Lee to the Hague. So it's all frustrating. And then, of course, their opponent this series is something else entirely.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, we've talked about this before. The Islanders are never going to be seated at the cool kids table. Like, they just aren't. And the Rangers, by virtue of, I guess, they're a New York City team, but they play a sport that, to be blunt, most of the city doesn't care about. A lot of people don't care about. And so they can get the coolness rub that a team like the Yankees or Jets or Giants or even Mets, although the Mets come the closest, probably wouldn't ever get. The Knicks have also somehow managed to be cool, but basketball is always cool. So, hockey is kind of a weird thing in that, like you said, people adopt it. People that have never watched a Rangers game are going to watch them, in the Eastern Conference Final, or if they make the Stanley Cup Final, they're going to watch that. And it gives them this cool factor that the Islanders will never, ever, ever, ever have. If the Islanders, I mean, listen, we just went through a period where the Islanders went to 2 back-to-back semifinals, and then were a trendy pick to win the cup the next year before it all fell apart. And they were never cool. Nobody thought of them as cool. I think our friend Art Staples said they were the best team that nobody liked. He called them in The Athletic, and that's 100% true. That's what they were. And so they're never going to get that rub. And it's got nothing to do with like haircuts or mustaches or, not doing social media stuff. It's just, that's the way it rolls. It's always going to be like that. And even the Dynasty guys, I've said this a million times, the Dynasty guys always talked about how the Rangers always got more publicity than them. And, they were the ones doing the Jordache commercials. Meanwhile, the Islanders were the one winning all the games. Right. So, it's always going to be like that, but it is hard to kind of watch in real time and see it kind of go off, and you're just like, man, really? Like, again, listen, nobody's saying that the Islanders deserve any kind of spotlight, especially now that they've flamed out in the playoffs to the other team we're going to talk about in a minute. And it's not like they deserve anything. They got exactly what they deserved for the the insane season that we all went through. But it does suck watching your teams rival. I'm assuming that there are Flames fans right now who live in Edmonton or near Edmonton or just sick to death. Actually, they're probably eating up the fact that the Oilers cannot get a save to save their lives. But, then what does that mean? It means the Canucks win the damn series, They're the team they probably hate. So it's, it's going to be tough. And I'm sure that there are, other teams, fans who hate other teams that are going on right now. I mean, the Avalanche Star Series has been great for me as an Islanders fan, but I can imagine if you're a Kings fan or a, Coyotes fan or a Blues fan and you hate those teams, then it's probably not a lot of fun. But there's something about this Islanders Rangers thing that just makes it worse. And, you walk around, I've seen a lot more Rangers hats in the city on my way to work today. There's, flags around and stuff. And it's like, guys, where were you when the Islanders beat them at the Garden late in the season, or when they couldn't get a win through January and February, which didn't ding them at all because they were losing at the same time everybody else was losing. So again, it's just a charmed existence, charmed life that the Islanders will never have. And it's hard to watch unfold in real time. And of course the Hurricanes have done us no favors because they did their same thing that they always do. They make the Islanders look like they look like superstars against the Islanders. And then all of a sudden they just fall apart because that's what they do. And honestly, at this point, I'm not saying I have more ire for the Hurricanes than I do for the Rangers, because I would absolutely hate the Rangers winning this series, which we're close to, and anything else. But man, these Hurricanes, I will say this though, before we get into it, I think the bloom is off the Hurricanes' rose at this point. Would you say that? Like you listen to a lot of podcasts. I think people are kind of on to the scam right now. Like I think people are like, all right, enough with these guys already. They've done this again and again.
We'll go way more into this tomorrow on the Leafs thing, but it does feel like people are lumping the two of them together.
Yeah.
And I think it's very fair.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very fair. And like you said, it's not, there's a different kind of hatred from separating the Rangers from even the Leafs, or the Rangers from the Penguins, and then separating all those kind of emotions from what I feel towards the Hurricanes, which is, and I've seen this from people who aren't associated with the Islanders, could care less about if the Islanders play another game, that the word is loser.
Wow.
And I use that word all the time on this show to describe us being Islander fans. It's a term of endearment when I say it like that. In the other way, the way I'm describing the Hurricanes as losers is completely different, because this is one of the most pathetic showings I've ever seen from a playoff team. And I truly mean that. And it's a different kind of pathetic from the team just showing up and getting absolutely whacked and going out in 4 in like round 1, or like the Capitals did in round 1 this year. It's a completely different type of pathetic, because they had everybody convinced that this year was going to be different because they got Jake Gensel.
Right.
Freddie Anderson was playing well. The special teams were a lot better. And they were a favorite in the betting markets, a significant favorite in the betting markets against the Rangers. And a lot of smarmy people in the hockey media community were catching heat from Ranger fans before the series, like, how can the Hurricanes be a favorite? And then, if you look at their expected goals per 60, like compare it to the Rangers 5-on-5 numbers, and then the special teams is a wash. Like, the hockey fan is so much smarter these days, and we all are. Everyone, there's so much more information out there that if you go too far, you can almost just not ever come back, right? And I think so many people who are believing in that narrative that the Hurricanes, like the numbers are all pointing to the Hurricanes being a much better team than the Rangers, are far gone. Like, they're just so far gone that they're never going to be able to come back and see the game for what it is, which is a game. It's a game played on ice with vulcanized rubber, and bounces matter. Weird stuff happens. Goaltenders matter very, very much, and all this stuff. And so all these people are yelling into the void that the Hurricanes are better. Me, you, everyone who watched the Islanders play the Hurricanes said, including Thomas Hickey, I thought he had a great thread about this. Like, the Hurricanes just were not that impressive, even though they beat the Islanders in 5. we're like, yeah, watch those games, please. Like
Right.
they were not that good. It wasn't, Sebastian Aho, Jake Gensel, and Andrei Svechnikov would go over the ice. Yeah, those are three really good players. But then the next three guys were like Jack Drury. Like it wasn't like Connor McDavid was coming out next. This
Right.
team wasn't, it was missing something, clearly missing something. And they had all these accolades and all this momentum. This is the year. And then nobody stopped and thought, we said that about this team last year. We said that about this team the year before. We said that about this team the year before that, the year before that, like going all the way back to the beginning of the Brendamore era.
Yeah.
And even like the season before it. Everyone thought this team was just a shoo-in to get to the Stanley Cup final and win a cup at one point. So now we get to this year, a team that they've historically had terrible time matching up against, and nobody's thinking, maybe we got to like give a hard pause here and think that the Rangers could actually just wipe the floor of this with these guys, because they just don't get it done in the big moments.
Right. And the worst thing is that when it comes to those special teams you talked about before, like all of a sudden people are like, oh man, the Hurricanes, what were they, like 1 for 14, I think, through the first 4 games, or for the first 3 games, like they couldn't score on the power play. And people are like, boy, what happened? We all know what happened. You know what happened. I know what happened. Everybody that watched an Islanders game this year knows exactly what happened. They played the team with the worst penalty killing in the history of the NHL in the first round. And yes, the Islanders penalty kill did get better towards the end of the season. That's true. But they still went in 32nd out of 32 teams. Like I'm turning into Mad Dog Russo all of a sudden now, but like we all get it, right? Like, they looked pretty good against a bad penalty kill. And, people just thought, oh, well, that's what, a good team is going to do against a team that's not that good against the Islanders. And that's true. But playing a team that, isn't the 32nd ranked penalty kill in the league is going to make your power play look a lot worse. And that's what's happening. And the Brind'Amour thing is fascinating because this is a guy whose reputation has been quite high for some time. And he's not signed for a contract extension. The Leafs, in case you haven't heard, need a new coach, as do a few other teams. And there's a chance here, Friedge, that he could be made the highest paid coach in the NHL, according to James Myrtle and the Leafs report. It's a long story. We'll explain tomorrow night. But he could be the highest paid coach in the league. He could be making what Mike Babcock was making when he was hired by the Leafs all those years ago. But okay, fine. Babcock's reputation isn't what it was then, but the dude had won a cup. He'd won a gold medal. Like, he had won. If the Hurricanes lose this series, and frankly, they are on the precipice of doing that as we speak right now, what are you paying Rod Brind'Amour to do? Just tell your players to just shoot from wherever? Is that the game plan? Because that's all the Hurricanes seem to do, is just, shoot from wherever. Okay, well, that's great. So he's going to go tell Austin Matthews to go shoot from wherever. Doesn't he kind of do that already? Like, so to me, that's a fascinating subplot. I think he probably just re-signs in Carolina, honestly. But if he were to leave that place where he did lead that team to a Stanley Cup and is a legend, I mean, let's be honest, he's the list of legendary Carolina Hurricanes is very, very small. It's basically right now Rod Brind'Amour, Ron Francis, and Cam Ward. That's it. And then maybe this new group will add some new guys if they do something. But like, if he were to go and coach any other team, not even the Leafs, if he goes to coach the LA Kings or wherever, the New Jersey Devils, whoever, and he accomplishes what he's accomplished so far in Carolina, great regular seasons and bad playoffs, he ain't going to get that same rub. I mean, he's going to be the reaction is going to be very different. And so to me, it's so funny. Again, we talked about the reaction to the Rangers outside of, as this playoffs have gone on, the reaction to the Hurricanes has been the exact opposite. What the hell's wrong with these guys? Why do they keep doing this? And meanwhile, we all know very well why this happens, because they keep playing the Islanders in the playoffs and the Islanders make them look like world beaters. And I got news for you, they are not. So it's been weird. I mean, what do you make of this whole Brind'Amour thing? Like, you've heard the same stuff I have, but it's like, it's ludicrous. I think he just resigned, so it's probably a moot point, but still.
It's exactly. There's so many people in that organization that get so much credit for not accomplishing anything. Right?
Sure.
Like I don't understand it, because if let's talk about like the Edmonton Oilers, by the way. Like they're on similar trajectories.
Mm.
The Oilers make the playoffs, then they get bounced after a couple rounds. They keep coming up short.
Right.
And whatever. The Hurricanes are doing the same thing, but the Oilers catch a ton of heat
Right.
every time that they don't win the Stanley Cup. A ton of heat. And it's not exactly apples to apples. I get it, because one team has McDavid and Draisaitl, but the other team has built this this supercharged 18-wheeler that is just supposed to be an absolute guarantee to win a Stanley Cup because of the way they built it. We know who their assistant GM is.
But
do you know who the assistant GM of the Vancouver Canucks is, or the Anaheim Ducks? Do you know?
No.
How many assistant GMs have you heard of in the NHL? And I would say there's, you could probably count them on maybe 1.5 hands, right?
Yeah.
We know that there's.
Sorry, I had to think for a minute who the Islanders' assistant GM is. I guess it's Chris Lamoriello?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
I guess.
Yeah, but that's the point, right? Like because this, for some reason, poor Don Waddell, like the Hurricanes make a trade, and everyone's like, "Wow, Eric Tulsky, another dynamite addition." And I'm like, Don Waddell's the GM. Nobody goes, "Oh man, what a move by Chris Lamoriello picking up Bo Horvat." Like that's all that is Chris Lamoriello's fingerprints all over it.
I listened to Real Kipper and Bourne on Friday, and they had John Shannon on, and he went off on this, and he's like, "You ever heard of such a thing that everything has got to go to the AGM? This guy Tulisky up there?" It's like, well, first of all, no, it's not. It's Tulsky, but he was really going off. He's like, "I never heard of such a thing in all my life. AGM doing all that work." Like, okay, man, but that's not just us, basically.
Right? Yeah, but I think it's hilarious, and like but yeah, now they're starting to finally catch some heat. It only took 8 years of it, or whatever we're at now, of them doing this exact song and dance. And then the Brenda Moore stuff comes out, and I was actually kind of happy, because you think that there are a lot of Leafs people being like, "Oh, let's root for the sweep so that Brenda Moore gets hired." And then there were some rational people out there like, what? Wait, why do we want to hire the guy that keeps losing in the playoffs
right
over and over again? But yeah, it's so weird, man. It's just these teams that have just become darlings weirdly make no sense to us, because what have they done? The Hurricanes are certainly one of them, and we said it. I'm sure I can't remember the verbatim stuff we said, but after the Islanders lost, we're like, one of the worst parts about this is we know that this team is going to lose to the Rangers.
Yep.
Because we watched them play a pedestrian series against the Islanders, and then act like it was like the state governor got involved. Like, you guys aren't the Vancouver Canucks. Like you aren't the like the Columbus Blue Jackets. You've been in the playoffs every year. You keep coming up short, and you're going to act like this after winning one round against this team? Come on. Like it's all kind of part of this whole loser, pathetic verbiage that I'm using, is read the room a little bit. Like you can't keep getting scot-free like this forever. Like, society at large, the hockey media culture at large, it leaves a lot to be desired. I understand that. But if you do something 8 or 9 times in a row, people will say, I don't know if they should run it back anymore. Or in the Hurricanes case, I don't think this is working. Maybe we got a little far ahead of ourselves. It wasn't me, of course. I was always the one who said this was not the best idea, but everyone else got fooled.
Yeah. It's always funny too how people are like, "Oh man, that Islanders team, boy, they're not that good. They're too old, they're too slow. They got by, they got lucky, they got hot at the right time, whatever." But then when the Hurricanes beat them, it's like, "Wow, look what they did to the Islanders." Well, wait a minute, hold on a second. Like, if the team's not that good, then beating them shouldn't be that much of an accomplishment. And again, we as Islanders fans are telling you that was not that much of an accomplishment. And the fact that the Hurricanes didn't even play all that well in that series is another indictment of them too. And the Islanders could have won 2 of those games straight out.
Same shit that Rod Brendamore says. Remember they got swept last year? This came up. He was like, it wasn't a sweep. Like, the Islanders could say that to you about all 3 playoff series. Be like, that scoreline was not fair. We said it. They played how many games. The Islanders have been as good or better in probably half of them. And you guys then go into the next round complaining about diving and are complaining about the score lines, being a lot closer than the games being a lot closer.
Right.
It doesn't matter at this point. You're not the Blue Jackets. Go
Yeah.
win a fucking game. Go win a
Yeah.
game. It's so
It's true.
annoying, man.
It
And
is.
it's
It is.
yeah, I mean, it's a completely different kind of hatred. It's like man, it's the Rangers, it's eternal. It's just always going to be there. This one is just it's almost like nothing I've ever experienced in sports before.
Yeah.
Like
It's like a difference between like a real blood rivalry, which is like what the Islanders have with the Rangers, what we have with the Rangers, and I don't know, for lack of a better phrase, like, Will Ferrell and Zoolander, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills kind of thing, it's like, what am I saying? It's like they live, like we have the glasses on and we can see everybody for what they really are.
Yeah.
And everybody else is like, oh man, what's going on with these guys? Dude, I'm telling you what's going on with them. I'm right here. I'm telling you.
It's almost like if you took that movie Good Will Hunting.
Yeah. Right.
And you flipped it completely. and you just and Will Hunting, you were like, he didn't leave and he stayed, and you're like, this is your fault. This is all your fault, like this is because they're like they're just an annoying house guest, someone at a party who won't leave. It's
right.
Well, someone
they're the annoying house guest that's like lecturing everybody on some subject nobody gives a shit about, and then they also won't leave. Yeah.
Right. They are the hockey the hockey academics, or those intelligentsias of a sport, right? It's hockey. It's not that serious, and you guys can just go win a game, please. And it's
so
because that's what it comes down to. It comes down to winning or losing at this time of year,
right?
And for some reason, this team, it doesn't. So I mean, the list just keeps getting longer, honestly, right? Like that we had, of course, the Rangers eternally. Now the Leafs are an eternal rival for, and that is we'll cross that bridge when we get to it with Tavares, like whatever, but it'll still be there. The Penguins.
I feel like the Hurricanes may have supplanted the Penguins on the list because the Penguins are kind of going through their own shit now, basically.
Once again, it feels different. Like I'd have to honestly, maybe like over the summer when it's really slow, we can kind of go through these teams, and because it is very different from the Penguins' hatred. It's the Penguins' sense of entitlement. At least you're like, they've won 3 cups, right?
Yeah,
they owned the Islanders during that era too, and the Islanders do have the distinction of being a bogey team against the Penguins, at least. Like, so there is some pushback there a little bit as well. Whereas this Hurricanes team, it's almost like when you're playing like touch football with your friends when you're like in 5th grade, and one of their older brothers shows up and he's like a sophomore in high school, or he's like got like 6 or 7 years on you guys, and he's like, "Can I play?" And we're like, "No." And he's like, "No, I'm playing." And then he just dominates basketball, football, whatever it is. And then his friends show up and he just gets pummeled. And you're like, see, that's why you should go play with them and get better by playing against those guys. Like, pick on someone your own size in a way. And it's pathetic. I don't mean for that to sound as kind of pathetic as it does for the Islanders, but that's how it feels with these guys. It's like you have accomplished shit, and you're throwing yourself a parade about beating a bunch of 6th graders when you're in senior in high school. Come on.
Yeah, it's true, and it is annoying. And I think we're all kind of united, and nothing changes, by the way. So as we have been going off on the Hurricanes, they must be feeding off of our energy because they have gone from being down 1-0 to being up 2-1 early in the 3rd period against the Rangers here. But like, even if they
lose, like they're going to lose this game. Like, there's no way that this game doesn't go to overtime. The Rangers don't win, right? Like.
Pretty much.
That's what this team is. Or, if they do somehow pull off the miracle and hold on to this lead and win, the Rangers will win Game 6 or Game 7. The series is over. It has been over since the puck dropped for Game 1. And I don't care what this team does. And honestly, it would be very Hurricanes for them to come back and make a series of it and then fall short and everyone be like, wow, they did give it a go. It doesn't matter the order that you win it, and the series scoreline still reads the same. Like, yes, all that matters. The series should be in their favor, but they're losers. They're pathetic. So screw them. No time.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And with just the score of the game doesn't really matter is what I'm saying. And what you said too, is just like, whether they win this game, lose this game, they're, even if they push it to game 7, even if they win the series, it's still the second round, right? So like, they'll probably get swept by the Panthers or Bruins in the next round anyway. Although, Panthers, it looks like the Panthers right now. So, this team, it is amazing how much ink they get for not accomplishing anything. And there are teams that have accomplished a little bit more than them and have, or I should say, about the same amount, and they don't get written up at all. So, what are you going to do? But that's I guess about that. It's funny how we end up talking more about the Hurricanes than we did about the Rangers, which I thought was kind of weird. Because again, the thought of the Rangers winning this and going into the Eastern Conference, but literally waltzing into the Eastern Conference final makes my stomach crawl. Like I just can't even. I don't want to fat because no one has ever had an easier time through 2 rounds than this team, and I say that as a casual Islanders hockey historian.
It should be noted that like the Rangers won the President's Trophy. They finished first overall in the East, so they deserve an easy round 1 opponent and the best path, all that, right? I get that 100%, but it isn't lost on me that having maybe the worst playoff team we've seen in the salary cap era wasn't enough. Team with a minus whatever goal differential. They also had to have them play without 3 of their defensemen for basically the entire series. The bottom 6 was just all AHL players because of injuries and such like that. It's just so funny that like they even catch those breaks. But like you said, like I said, they did deserve it. Like there's nothing you could say. But the one thing I will say is that it is the Panthers are kind of like the inverse of this, where they're just a pack of wild animals. Right. They're fun to root for when you're not playing against them, and they got Kyle Oposo.
That is true.
And he's wearing number 8, and it's so fun to see him out there. He's playing well, actually. Like he's not just playing that. You know how hockey media people like pat a player like that on the back in these situations.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look at how adorable that Kyle Oposo is playing, and isn't it so nice to see a veteran like Eric Johnson getting a chance to make the playoffs again with the Flyers, stuff like that. And like they're playing terribly, and they're getting that kind of stuff. Like Oposo is playing well, and he had a fun press conference the other day, which he talked about the leadership of Barkov and Tkachuk, and I thought it was hilarious because he's talking about how these guys are great leaders. And mature, and they lead in different ways, and everyone kind of sees them drag the team into the fight, not the other way around. Yeah. And you could hear him talking like, wow, he's throwing shade at the Sabres, man. Like, huh? And then I realized, wait, he was the captain of the Sabres. So is he like, is he criticizing himself here, saying like, I should have been much more, doing that kind of stuff rather than whatever I was doing. It's worth a watch if you can find it, but it was really interesting, and go get him, Kyle.
Yeah, that's what I say too. I would not mind at all seeing Kyle Oposo get to a Stanley Cup final and maybe even lift the damn thing. So we'll see. So if you're looking for something to root for as opposed to many reasons and things to root against, it's right there. It's right there for you. Also, don't forget Zach Parise, also still very much alive with the Avalanche, although not everybody's a huge Parise fan after what happened with the Islanders, but I still am. So there you go. As somebody noted, I didn't even realize this. That series is Parise versus Ryan Suter, which I hadn't even thought of it. So here we are going off on the Rangers, going off on the Hurricanes, going off on all of these, kind of slights and the toughness of having to be an Islanders fan watching all this go down. Well, imagine being a Wild fan and the 2 guys your team bought out and saddled you with, a couple of, a dozen, whatever, double digits of millions of dollars in cap penalties are playing each other in the second round of the playoffs. So that's got to suck too. So I guess it's tough all around for everybody, but we hope we've, given you a little bit of thought and given you a little bit of hockey, talk in the middle of your day, middle of your week. Again, we will not have an anxiety next week, barring any kind of news or actually something actually happening to the Islanders, but there will be a Weird Islanders next Friday. It will be the weirdest Islander of the year. And on that poll, if you are a patron, and you can leave a comment. I'm going to put a comment in there asking for suggestions for what to name the weirdest Islander of the year trophy. Mike has a suggestion. I have a suggestion. You can vote for one of ours, or you can choose your own. And here I said, and again, only paying patrons can leave a comment. That's Patreon's thing, not mine, but it works out pretty well. So we can see what ideas people have for the name of the trophy of the weirdest Islander of the year.
And and also I don't think one time this entire year we said this, but definitely feel free to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Rate, review, subscribe. That does help, especially in like the slower months.
Yes.
And I get a kick out of them, honestly. Like sometimes they're even the bad ones are hilarious. Like we always joked around about that one a few years back about how we were very amateur fans complaining.
Yes.
We saw a hilarious comment on the blog a few weeks ago where somebody's significant other asked what podcast he was listening to, and he said Islanders Anxiety, and she said, "Oh, the one with the crying men."
The crying men.
Which is so perfect. That's Emily's like, yeah, I'd say that to you all the time. You guys just sound like you're just crying about the Islanders. It's like that's what we're doing.
Yeah. So we have been called, very amateur fans complaining. We've been called the crying men. We've been told to stop talking about the Maple Leafs. Which is weird for an Islanders podcast.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny if you were just like a fan who gets served like you're a Winnipeg Jets fan and you're just like, oh, looking at Apple's charts and you see, oh, you might also like this one, and you say, okay, let's see maybe I'll listen to an Islanders podcast because they crack me up. You look at the reviews, and what the first one is, please stop talking about the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
And it's fair, totally fair.
It's totally fair, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean that makes a ton of sense. But and actually, to that end, I did notice today these things change a lot, so I try and note them when I can. But this afternoon, we were the number 6 hockey podcast in all of Czechia, of the Czech Republic. We were the number 6, and I told my boss that, and he was like, "What are the other 5?" And I'm like, "They're all in Czech." So I don't know what they are. We were the first non-Czech hockey podcast on the Czech hockey charts today, and behind us was 32 Thoughts, Spit and Chicklets, the whole gamut of them. So thank you, Czech Republic, thank you, Czechia, for your support. And if you can leave us a review on iTunes, even just clicking a star on Spotify is really helpful, and just kind of get the word out there. And obviously, sign up at patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. We go all summer long. So, if you're afraid like, oh, I'm going to pay these guys, I'm not going to have any content, trust me, we're going to put out a lot of stuff during the course of summer. We got mailbags. We have Country Club Atmosphere. We have all kinds of stuff, and anything, again, that strikes our fancy, we might throw out there. So definitely do that. Definitely sign up, and definitely vote for Weirdest Islander of the Year. Again, you don't have to sign up to vote, but we do need the vote. So get in there. You have until Saturday to get them in, and then we'll record on Sunday. Follow us on Twitter at Isles Anxiety Pod. Again, subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible.com, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and YouTube Music, and wherever you get your podcasts. Our theme song is Morning Haze by Family Dinner. Listen to more of their music at Bandcamp and on Spotify, and they are on tour on the East Coast. So look them up, and maybe they'll be in a town near you very shortly. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day for your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Islanders Anxiety podcasts are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Learn more at fansfirstsports.com. Shop vintageicehockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project, especially in the summertime. And, by the way, Worcester Ice Cats jerseys now at vintageicehockey.com. They are cool as hell. Again, that's an absolute sick, classic 90s hockey team, the Worcester Ice Cats. So if you are a Worcester Railers fan and you are listening to this in Worcester, I don't know if anybody is, check out the Ice Cats jerseys over at vintageicehockey.com. And again, try wines from the Pinot Project. Mike, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
The Big Lee Basket with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lee Basket. Read and listen to his work at Action Network. We have covered a lot in, a short amount of time. Very little of it pertaining to the Islanders. Do you have any final thoughts on any of this stuff that we've covered here? Hurricanes hate, Rangers hate, not too much Leafs hate because we got to save that for tomorrow. But Marcus Hellberg, anything else?
I'm just very excited for tomorrow, and hope to see the 65% of you on Wednesday morning, because and look, we've already got a abundance of material to work from, but tomorrow's a new day. Like we could see even more. These
Oh my
guys
gosh.
are machines up there. They are
Yep.
absolute machines. Every time you go on Twitter, you're like, oh man, a new one just dropped. So
Yeah.
it's a full, like I said, it feels like a full-time job staying on top
Yeah.
of these guys.
Yeah. I mean, is it really a hot take if they're all that hot? Like it's just a take at that point, which is basically what we get from up north. But again, we will broach all of that on a very special Master Leaf Theater coming out on Wednesday, recording tomorrow. Please don't miss it. I'm telling you, it's a lot of fun. Even if you're maybe not into it, we have a really good time, and it will definitely take your mind off of the Islanders, the Rangers, or anything else that's going on in your life that might be causing you great distress. One thing we could all do is laugh at the Maple Leafs and their media. So join us on Wednesday for that. And we will be back in a couple of weeks with a brand new Islanders Anxiety. Again, barring any news for the Islanders, but Weird Islanders, 50th episode, Weirdest Island of the Year, coming out not this Friday, but the next Friday. All right. Thanks a lot for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.